Hello and welcome to United View, guys, and welcome to the Red Room, your weekly show every single week, or most weeks. Myself and Mina. How have you been, Mina?
Good. Nice to have a week off.
Yeah.
Just relaxing. It's been a minute since I've been in the studio.
Feels different. It feels very different. But, going through the weekly action as per normal. And today we're going to go through a loss and talk about a loss. Obviously, the week before that was international break, but we've had the game against Newcastle 2-0. How do you feel about this game for me? Because a lot of people are losing their heads. It was an absolutely shocking performance from the team overall. But in the grand scheme of things, to my mind, Mina, I think, this was a little bit of inevitability. So many games throughout the season. A loss, we're in a process as a side, and as a team. How do you feel about this game?
I don't think it's inevitable because we just come off a 2-week break.
Yeah.
Where quite a few of our players actually didn't go to international games, or they did go but they didn't play too much. I think who played the most, probably Harry Maguire, and he probably played the most during the international break. For me, my concern is the way that we set up away from home. Like, I'm not, maybe obviously Ten Hag is still, he's grasping the league and the different competitions away from home, but it's really concerning me how we are away from home. Like, right now, if we're looking at, for example, all the fixtures in April, the ones at home, I'm not too concerned about.
Yeah.
It's just the games away.
Big games.
I don't even know how we're going to come out. I don't know how we're going to set up. I don't know how we're going to play. There's the moment get to the players. And I feel like Sunday, I just feel like Newcastle wanted it a bit more than our players. Maybe they had redemption in their head from the final, from the Carabao Cup.
Definitely the redemption. But I think Ten Hag's target is always to play the same way. Whether it's home and away, and for me, it's inevitable in a way because we can just clearly see the players are not good enough to play that kind of intense level in the uncomfortable environments away from home. I mean, against the top six, we haven't performed as well as we should. I mean, it's only really been Chelsea where we got something and where we should have got something out of the game. I think all the other away games, Arsenal, I think we should have got something out of that game as well away from home. They were lucky to get the 3-2. Palace as well, but maybe not a top six side, but just against the big sides. And I think I'll consider Newcastle as one of those big sides in the future and going forward. Manchester United have to be able to play the exact same way and with the exact same confidence that they're playing at home.
And also, you have to take into consideration is like the lineup. McTominay, I'm sorry, but I don't want to single him out because there's quite a few players that I could actually single out. But as a whole, the team was bad. But someone like McTominay should not be starting for Manchester United in 2023. Like, I don't care. He should not be starting. And if that was his audition to join Newcastle in the summer, they ain't signing him. They are not signing him.
Do you know what? I hope you're wrong in a sense because he's just got a lot of the dynamic running and stuff. But you're right. You're massively right. At this stage, we shouldn't have that kind of quality of player in the team, but it's just been because of the heavy run of fixtures and the games. And plus, he scored 2 goals in international break.
I don't care. I don't care. He could have scored a hat-trick in one game for Scotland. I don't care. What you do at international level, if that does not translate into club football, I don't care. That's why I'd have no sentiment to Harry Maguire, because I don't care. So obviously we're quite, Casemiro, red card. Fred,
massive loss. Casemiro loss. What do you think?
That was a big part of like the absence because I feel like in football and just in Premier League quite often, games are won in the middle of the park. If you dominate that midfield, and you've seen it in the past when we've come up against the likes of Liverpool, City, Arsenal. When you're overrun in midfield, that team are on the front foot the entire time and they've got the advantage. And I don't know what it is, but like a team like Newcastle, who are literally contending to be one of the top 6 in the league, like they might dump Spurs out of that in the next couple of years and they might take over their place. I just think there's players in the team that we know are not good enough, but we have to see it through. We have to see the season through. It can't be a blip in our season. It can't be one of those ones where we're like, oh, people are turning on the manager. That's ridiculous. I think that is so wild to me because now it's a real top 4 race. Yeah. Remember 2 months ago, people talking about title race? I'm not going to say their name, but they know who they are. They know who they are. And I kept saying one game at a time. And I said, and you know what I said? I said in one of my fan cams, and Owen is my witness, I said, come back to me after we play Everton on the 8th of April. I said, come back to me.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
I'm waiting for Owen to come back to me after we play Everton on the weekend and ask me about the title race, because right now it's not a title race. It was never a title race. And I was called, people kept saying I was sitting on the fence, basically. And at points I wanted to believe, but I just felt like something was missing. And this game on Sunday just proved that we've still got a journey to go to, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
You know, what's that saying, like, Rome ain't built in a day.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't expect a turnaround straight away first season from Ten Hag, and we're gonna see fixtures like this. But it's a growing journey.
It's a growing journey, and when we're talking about that growing journey, it's the quality of players along that journey that make this side. And Verkost, you know, what's like. He's still not been able to contribute well enough. I just, you know, he's
I feel bad.
I feel bad. You know, I was really out here screaming 20 goals a season, 15
Someone
goals,
said,
10 goals.
I remember
I was
when we
really
signed him.
believing he comes in and he scores these goals.
I remember when we signed him, I can't remember, was it DJ or someone said that, we were talking about like what would be a successful signing, loan signing, and someone said 10 goals. And I was just like, yeah, nah, I don't know about that. I can't remember who it was.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I was up here saying, listen, he's gonna, and until across the whole half of the season, he's gonna contribute 15 goals at least, and would add to the side. But he's just not been able to get involved in the team, and you know, going through that process of a journey, like you're saying, and building Rome, you know, building the strong quality Man United side. Something has to happen in that forward line. You know, in that game, you talk about midfields dominating games. Midfield is so important to getting the best out of your forward line, and that just wasn't happening.
Well, I think I'm about to open a wormhole with this, but what do you think of De Gea's performance in that game, and in terms of the goals we've conceded? Because we were talking off camera just now about Ten Hag and what he says about De Gea and the theory that I have.
Facts. It's a very strong theory, and I agree with you on it. But in terms of this game, David De Gea, a lot of the good things you've done were kind of a mistake of his own doing as well. I mean, the fantastic save that he makes when he has to spin around, it's like, you can come out and clear that. It's within your 6-yard box, David De Gea. Clear it, you know. A lot of the times, just kick it long. If you can't play the short game, just go back to what you're comfortable, David De Gea. Kick it long. But it was one of those games for him where, you know, a lot of his good work was done at his core elements, fantastic saves, a double block save. The second shot was just at him, but a lot of his good work was done at his element, saving. But we struggle when he can't claim crosses for us, to start quick counter-attacks, to beat the opposition. You know, he doesn't help us going forward, and that's the issue.
Obviously, we're going to talk about it coming up, you know, when we preview the upcoming games. Obviously, we've got Brentford, and with David De Gea, every time I think about things this season that have happened with David De Gea, I know to me, I still stand by it. I don't think he's the biggest issue that needs to be replaced or fixed in the team. I don't think he's the biggest. I do think that for me, is striker, centre mid, goalkeeper.
I'm glad that people have seen it in the top three though.
But I was always in right back. But I'm like, Wan-Bissaka, Dalot, I need to see how the season ends with them two. I feel like we need a backup centre back. I feel like we need quite a few backup options across the board.
Yeah.
But I don't think, if you said to me today, you could get Osherman and I'm not going to say Frankie de Jong because I don't want to talk about that. But you could get a striker.
Jude Bellingham.
No, there's no way we're signing an Osherman and a Jude in the summer. That's like 200 and something million combined from two signings.
Nothing is out of the realm of possibility. It's not impossible.
I'm just saying, if you said to me today, oh, we could get an Osherman and a midfielder of your choice, but you don't get a goalkeeper next season, or you get a midfielder and a goalkeeper, but you don't get a striker. Or you get a striker and a goalkeeper, but you don't get a midfielder. I'm taking the striker and I'm taking the midfielder. For me, like, David De Gea, there are issues there that needs to be addressed. And they always talk about it on like Sky and after games and whatnot. And every time I think about this season and just moments that have just made me think, damn, I just think back to the Brentford game. And that's why I'm worried about this Brentford game. Because I feel like, again, they are going to be crossing balls into the box. I think it was a Newcastle player that said that they were targeting David De Gea by putting balls in the box, and because they know that he won't come out and
One of the Murphy brothers. I
can't remember who it was, So again, like, you know, Brentford have that aerial ability. Yeah. They've got that press. That's another thing that is concerning. We've got, is Casemiro back? I think he's back.
Everton, I think he might be back
Because he might be back for Everton. I thought he was out for
100% sure
Southampton, Fulham, and then this game.
But it wasn't. I don't know.
Or did he got sent off at Southampton? He got sent off at Southampton, so he's got one more game left.
Yeah.
My concern with David De Gea and Brentford, and we saw it when we played them, is their press when we're playing out from the back.
Yeah.
If we've got midfielders that shy away from the ball,
Scott McTominay.
Recipe for disaster. It's honestly a recipe for disaster, and I do feel like they are probably going to target that. But in terms of the Newcastle game, I just feel like there was flaws all across the pitch. Rashford ain't looking like himself at the moment. He's kind of come down from that high he was on. Jadon Sancho has been a topic of discussion for the past few days. Everywhere I go, podcasts, YouTube, Twitter, everybody is talking about Jadon Sancho.
Yeah.
And I remember someone a United fan that I know brought up a tweet that they tweeted like 3 years ago when the first Sancho saga started, when we wanted to sign him, and they were saying, please Sancho, don't come to United because you're going to ruin your career basically.
Yeah.
And now it seems like everybody's saying that same thing that some fans were saying 3 years ago. My issue with Sancho is, and I really want him to succeed and I want him to do well, he ain't got that bite on the pitch, and it's really frustrating to watch. I don't know. What do you think of that? Because for me, I'm getting frustrated, and apparently Ten Hag is too.
You're right. He doesn't, and unfortunately, we're seeing that in real time, game after game. He hasn't got that burst of pace, to really beat players. And I was speaking off air to my old man about it, and I just 100% just think he's not going to be able to cut it, unfortunately. And it will take maybe some time for him to get whittled out because it's 80 million. It's a massive sign, and he's still young. He can still improve. Last season was a poor season for everyone, for the whole club. And this season he's had a little bit of situations. Ten Hag's handled it brilliantly. But I think, unfortunately, because he's not a Ten Hag signing, there's already an £80 million player on the other side of the pitch that's not really bursting past players, not doing the Ryan Giggs, not doing the Valencia, not doing the Nani, and in Anthony, but is still holding the ball, understands the system, knows when to be and where to be. But Sancho's still figuring himself out right now, and we don't know whether he's best utilised in a 10. Some people I've heard saying put him in the 8 for crying out loud. Some people have said put him out wide.
If you put him in the 8, he's getting flung off the ball. He is getting flung. There's no way. And the thing is with Sancho, what bothers me is that when I say he hasn't got bite, I mean like if a player's coming at him,
the 50-50s.
He's got the ball, the 50-50s. He won't put his foot in. He won't put his body on the line.
70-30 for the opposition.
It's always very much like he's holding himself back. And you can't play like that in the Premier League.
Facts.
Come Europa League, when we're getting deeper into the competition, you're not going to be a player that can be called upon because you're not putting your 100% into it. And I don't know why I'm going to use the word, but he's shy on the pitch.
Yes.
And that's the best way I can describe it. He seems like he's shy. He's shy to take on a man. I know he's not the quickest player, but we know that he's good with his feet. He talks about, in his career, I remember he did an interview where he talked about how playing goals. So if anyone's not from the UK or London, goals is like a football cage in like estates where people go out and play football with people from the neighbourhood. And he says that a lot of his tricks and keeping the ball at his feet, he learnt it from goals because it's a tight space. You have to be able to keep the ball at your feet.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that, and I'm really, really concerned because, is this going to be another 70 million signing that's failed at the club? Like, is this another young player now, an English young player that was at his top, comes to Man United? And back in the day, we used to make jokes about strikers going to Chelsea and just falling off.
Yeah.
But could this be our new thing
Shevchenko.
at Manchester United? Yeah. I'm not too sure. I really hope he can turn it around.
So I agree with you. I really hope he can turn it around. I just don't think he will be able to.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a discussion with it, with everyone. Okay. Was it who was doing it with us that day? I can't remember the group, but I remember saying, "Listen, he's gonna leave. He has to go."
And there's nothing wrong with him as a player or his agency saying, you know what, this ain't for him.
Yeah.
This project ain't for him. This place ain't for him. Maybe he is better off going back to Germany
think he could.
Another European league. Maybe the tempo of English football and what's demanded from him, maybe he's not really there. And one thing I do think that plays into it, and it's no criticism to him, but more so a criticism to the club, is you buy a player at the age of 21. 22, however old he was, and you give him £300,000 a week.
350, I think it was.
There's no motivation in him. Like, if that was me personally,
You're done.
And I interviewed a footballer recently, and we spoke about this whole young players getting money, and he was saying that, you know, young players, when they get money and that, they come into the dressing room, you know, they've got no influence on the dressing room, but because they've got this money and they've got these cars and they've got this lifestyle that they now can live, they've got no passion. And we were talking about the difference between footballers back in like 2000s and 2010 and why, you know, they had to do well and they wanted to do well. And he was like, because you had to work for your money. He was like, now people just get money thrown at them and then they become incapable of doing what's asked for them because they've got the money.
Yeah, that motivation within inside, that hunger.
Yeah,
you know.
So I think that's one thing that plays into the Sancho thing.
Alongside with Sancho, you've got other players that, you know, potentially are not doing well enough, I would say, and you mentioned it. By the way, in the comment section, guys, because you made a really good point, you talked about, you know, 3 options this summer, and you would pick 2 out of the 3. So you said the striker and the midfielder and a goalkeeper. So in the comment section below, guys, please can you just put down your opinion on what you would pick out of the 3. You mentioned, though, just a side note from that, you mentioned obviously right back being an issue, and I think another player that potentially might get sold. We're looking at right backs for this summer. Is Diego Dalot. You know, he was at a level this season, but then again, against Newcastle, he didn't strike me as somebody brilliant. You know, Saint Maximin having a field day. You know, was minimised the last game, but today maximised. So I think potentially that's somebody we might have to look at, that right back situation. I do agree with you though. Let's see to the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
But right now he's looking a bit jaded, and all the players, you know, Dalot, Weghorst is running his socks off every single game, but even Bruno looking jaded.
Sometimes, you know, running your socks off, and this is why I feel bad for him. It's not enough.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a DM, and you work your socks off, that work rate will be appreciated because you're probably getting a lot of ball recoveries. You're probably getting a lot of interceptions because you're in that like middle position. Yeah. But when you're a striker and you're meant to score goals, working hard enough that's not good enough. And that's one reason I feel bad for him, because he was a goal scorer in his time at Germany. When he came from Turkey, he could score goals. But it's just, and there's been so many times this season where he should have scored. There's been so many times where he should have scored. So I do feel bad for him in that instance. And like he said, coming to United was a no-brainer for him, because I'm sure every footballer probably dreams about playing for the big clubs. So right now, I'm not even a footballer yet. But if Manchester United women came to me and said, we will give you a 10-day contract to come play for us, absolutely, I will be there, socks, shorts.
I'm watching all the games as well. I'm coming down.
Because that would be my dream. As a footballer, you probably just can't turn it down. You can't be like, I'm not good enough to go to that team, because, you know, you dream about playing for the big teams. So I feel bad for Weghorst in those instances. But on the topic of women's football, we're going to just quickly talk about Manchester United women's team. I know a lot of people don't like to hear about women's football, but I'm sorry, guys.
Ridiculous.
We have to support the ladies. We have to support the girls. Obviously, I've been covering it for United. We've been very lucky to be able to go to games and to continue to be going to games as the season continues. We're
asking managers questions, press conferences.
Listen, me and Mark Skinner, that's my dog.
All right.
We're friends, innit? I know a lot of people aren't a fan of the manager, but we're friends. One thing I like about, you know, women's football in comparison to men's is it's quite intimate in terms of press coverage and whatnot. There's not hundreds of reporters and whatnot, so it's very easy for you to get one-to-one.
String a relationship.
Because he comes with, like, one thing I like about Mark Skinner is he'll come into a press room or after the game, and he will go around and say hi to everyone. Yeah. He will come up. He comes up to me and he spuds me like this. He's like, "You're right. Yeah." The other day I saw him. He was like, "Oh, nice to see you again. Yeah, you're gonna be at the next game." I was like, "Yeah." He remembers faces and that, and for me, that just makes it a bit more personal. Like it's a personal connection. But talking about Manchester United women, currently top of the league. You see, when people were talking about title charge at the beginning of the season, this is what they should have been talking about. This is the title charge they should have been talking about. Top of the table, 41 points. I think Chelsea's on 40 points with a game in hand. Yep. Arsenal are on 38 points with a game in hand. And then City are just behind them, but they don't have a game in hand. So it's really, I can't ever remember a WSL title that's been a four-legged race. It's literally a four-legged race. Each team could win it. Mathematically, they could win it. I think for Manchester United, the title will be decided on the second to last game of the season.
It's going to be
because
close, yeah.
we've still got a few games. We've got Spurs at home, easy fixture. We've got
Big
Villa.
games.
The two big games are Arsenal and City, both of them. We've got both of them, a Manchester derby and then Arsenal at home. And one thing that I think works in our favour is Arsenal are in the semi-finals of the Champions League. So they've got their mind on that. Chelsea in the semi-finals of the Champions League, they want to win the Champions League. I think Emma Hayes wants a Champions League title. She don't really care too tough, I think, about the WSL. Obviously, City want to make their mark on English football. So it's going to be a really interesting, it's going to be a very interesting run of games. It's an international break right now for, I think it's about 2 weeks. And then we come back and play Brighton again, but this time FA Cup semi-final. Brighton are not the best team in the league. They're fighting relegation.
Yeah.
They've conceded, I think, 50 goals in the league. That's not including like cups. They've conceded 50 goals, including 4 against Manchester United on the weekend. So it could be a trip to Wembley this season in the FA Cup final. And it could also be a title. Dare I say it? Dare I say it could be a title?
Well, like, what is the significance, and do you think it's important for us to win a title this season, the women's side, coming into new owners come in, contracts need to be signed, new footballers need to come in and reinvent the side. Do you think it's important for us to win this title or at least be in and around second,
I think it's important for multiple reasons, but if some of you guys are not familiar, Manchester United women's team was dismantled by the Glazers in 2005 when they bought the club. And they only reinvested in it in around 2018. So that was about a good 13-year period of football players in the north of England going to play for other teams because Manchester United didn't have a women's team. And then when obviously 2018 came and they restarted the women's team and whatnot, I think the goal was within 5 years to be within Champions League football.
Yeah.
But also the manager's goal, he said, is to win a trophy. Because we've not won a top flight trophy yet, because we've only been around for 5 years.
Important to win things.
On top of that, it will also show whichever owners that come in and buy the club that it's important to invest in the women's team. Investing in the women's team, it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of financial figures when it comes to a football club. You look at Arsenal, Chelsea, the big dogs in English football. They don't generate as much revenue as Manchester United women do. Manchester United women generate the most revenue in English football and the second most in European football.
Wow.
Yeah, they could function just from the money that they generate. It's not a lot. It's like 6-7 million, but it's a lot in women's football because women's football is obviously still growing. So that's one thing. Owners could look at that and be like, if we just invest an extra 4 million a year into women's football, then we can compete. Transfers are not a big thing. Like the value of transfers in women's football, the record transfer fee, Arsenal bidded for Alicia Russo, our striker, in January, and it was just over £500,000. That was the record. That would have been a record transfer fee if she had left Manchester United.
Wow.
Going into the window and buying players, it's not going to cost a lot in the grand scheme of money from Manchester United as a whole. So I feel like that's another thing. Obviously, some people might feel like, funding 6 million to the women's team, we could have used that on top of the 6 million that we signed Weghorst for on a loan. 12 million, we could have brought an actual striker. Something like people will say stuff like that.
Yeah,
find a way. But I personally do not think it's a lot of money. Yeah. Also, another thing is that Manchester United women's team have one of the highest attendances in English football because they sell out their home ground all the time. I went to a game in Old Trafford. And it was 27,000. Sorry, guys, I'm fasting in it, so my brain's a bit. But it was 27,000 fans at Old Trafford, which is it's not the record for Old Trafford women's games, but it's still a big figure.
Number,
And also, players could be leaving on a free this summer.
That's what I'm trying to say.
2 of our best players, Alicia Russo and Arnaut Battier. Mary Earps, her contract expires next year. There's quite a lot of players whose contracts finish, and I think Alicia Russo is in a position in her career where she wants to play Champions League football. So that's why a big part for me is for Manchester United to get that, solidify that top 3 thing. If you win a title in the process, calm.
So for the women's, it's the top three. Just
Top three is their goal, but I think now they've realised that a title race is on because they've been interviewed after the games against Brighton, and they said, a title race is not out of their reach. But they just have to. Mark Skinner, I asked him about the title race, and he said it's one game at a time.
Yeah.
I think he watches United. I think he watches United because he was like one game at a time. But they just have to. Honestly, that's what you have to do because that's why I'm saying. When is it? 21st of May. Make sure you guys all watch, guys. Manchester United versus City, Manchester Derby. That's the day the title is being decided. That game.
It's a big
if
shout.
we win that,
It's a big shout, man. It's a big shout.
It's a big shout, but I believe in the team. I believe in the team.
And in terms of game by game for the men's side, it's Brentford. Today Brentford 8 p.m. Massive game today. What do you think in terms of us going game by game? Thomas Frank now being quite reasonable in his criticisms towards Ten Hag and stuff, saying it's going to be, and I believe it's going to be angry Hag on today. We need to win, and it's at Old Trafford, so he should be playing, setting up this team to win this game.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like I'm nervous. I'm a bit nervous because if we go off of what Brentford did to us at the beginning of the season, I'm nervous for that reason. But I'm hoping that a loss on the weekend kind of wakes the players up. Sometimes they need that kick up the arse.
Yeah, they do. And like you said, international break too, a little bit of a layoff for maybe 2 weeks off. I don't think it's 2 weeks. There are a few players were playing, but a little bit of a layoff. They come back.
Rashford was in New York just chilling, and I like that for him. I love that for him.
Yeah,
enjoy your time off, man. You deserved it.
Same. But quickly, the thought just came into my head. Do you like that green kit? You were talking about Brentford we lost 4-0.
No, I hate that kit.
I hate that kit as well.
I call it the highlighter kit.
It's the worst kit. And then we got smoked.
It just, every time I think about the highlighter kit, I remember the Brentford game. That's literally what I remember. I remember the Brentford game. And that's the one kit I think I don't have this season.
Yeah, same. I only have I just don't like that kit. There's something weird about it.
My favourite kit is that light pink one. Do you remember that night in Paris? We knocked out PSG. Ooh, that's one of my favourite kits.
Last second.
That's one of my favourite kits of recent times. I'm not a huge fan of the Adidas.
I love this colour right now, and I really like this colour flex. Yeah, man.
I know this is a bit off topic, guys, but put in the comments what your favourite kit is as well, because of recent, my favourite is that pink one. But one of my all-time favourites is the blue 07-08 kit. That blue kit.
Yeah. I was about to say, beautiful. when you go all-time, I love the Vodafone.
The classic
Vodafone. That's got to be my kit. But in terms of,
I like that. I like the kit, the 2019 one when they had the gold outline on the emblem. It was the anniversary of the treble kit. It was the home kit. It was the red kit.
It's the red kit.
And it had the gold, and it had the thing on the back. When Solskjaer, the time that he scored. I don't know if you remember.
No, I can't.
I'm sure. I hope people know what I'm talking about. But it just had like a little gold outline on the emblem and on the Adidas logo, and it just looked nice. It was like black, gold, and red, basically the kit, and it just looked nice. I like that one. Obviously, I like the old school kits. The Sharp and Vodafone and all of that. But I do like that Chevrolet Nike.
That's a little bit. That's in the 2010s.
Yeah,
sometime.
the 2010s.
Yeah. Europa League, Mourinho.
But the thing is, this season's kit is the collar one. I remember we had we had the Aeon collar kit.
Yes.
I think it was 09 or 010.
I was just about to say.
I preferred this kit in terms of the collar because I didn't like the collar on that one.
The Aeon one, I was just about to say, that's another kit that I like in terms of classics. The Aeon kit's nice.
We're going off topic anyway.
Sorry,
guys.
Sorry, no, but that team for that Brentford game was completely different. You had Ronaldo on the side. You had, I think, an off-formed...
I saw a debate on Sky last night that was saying they were comparing Ronaldo's 17 games for United.
To Weghorst.
How
did I know you were going to say that? I
was just laughing because I was like, what producer came up with this idea? Like, that is the funny...
That's wickedness.
And they were just like discussing it.
That's wickedness.
And I didn't even watch it. I watched like a few minutes of it and then I was like, I don't want to watch this.
That's horrible. That's horrible. And you know what? Funny enough, depending on what metric you kind of put that on, Weghorst still comes up trump because the whole reason why we got rid of Ronaldo is because he couldn't press. And the whole reason
That's not the reason why we got rid of him. We got rid of him because of his interview, be real.
No.
That's why. No, come on. Realistically, if he didn't do that interview, he would have seen the season out with United.
No, I would have liked to think he goes in January.
Nah, I don't think so.
I would like to think that he went in January, to be honest with you.
Because his whole stance was that, you know, big clubs wanted him, but in reality, no one wanted him. Because if he was going to go anywhere, he would have went in the summer. And the only team that was sniffing around him in the summer is Al Nasser, where he's playing right now in Saudi.
Yeah.
His whole argument was that, you know, he doesn't want to go, he's committed to the project, blah, 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 blah. If he did not do that interview with Piers Morgan, I genuinely think today he would still be at Manchester United and he would have seen the season out. Whether he'd be playing consistently or not is different.
And I think that's why he would have left in January.
But I think he would have been here.
No, I understand. I just feel like that tension, and you made a really good point, which I've agreed with you, or I've agreed previously before. So in terms of Ten Hag in the media saying things to protect players, or not really having his true thoughts, you know, shown out to the public. Because and I was saying to you off air, you know, if me and you live in the same house, you know, we're family.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Once we go out on the road, and we have an argument, and we've had an argument at home, me and you are best friends on the road. I don't want to other people to see that we have a situation. Me and your best friend. Nobody needs to know. And I think that's the similar kind of situation that happened with Ten Hag and Ronaldo. And I think he would have left in that January. And it's a similar thing for other players in the team, I think. But
you don't want your manager to come out and bash you in the press. Yeah. And that's why I say with the whole De Gea thing, he will always come out. Like even Maguire, you see it with Harry Maguire, you see it with Scott McTominay. Even when he talks about Anthony Elanga, whoever he talks about, he always has positive things to say because he ain't gonna throw his player under the bus. You have to keep a harmonized
family. We're family. We're unit.
Yeah. And whether like with the whole De Gea thing that we were talking about off air, I do feel like some of the things that he says, he believes it. I do think he respects De Gea and he likes him as a player and all of that stuff. But there's no harm in your head saying, you know, because I like you as a player, you're good, but you know, there's someone better.
Yes.
There's no harm in that. But the thing that I like about Ten Hag, and he's very well media trained.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's well media trained or this is him as a person.
Yeah.
Like he's just a good-hearted person. But I respect that. I respect that about him. One game that I'm actually a bit nervous about is Everton, because firstly, they'll be missing Doucouré.
Yeah.
So that will give us a one-up in the midfield.
Yes.
Obviously, they've got Onana, they've got Idrissa Gueye, so they've got decent players in that midfield. But when teams are fighting for their life, and I mean that 13th, I think between 13th and 20th, there's like 5 points between them.
Yeah.
So anyone between that 13th to 20th,
6 pointers. Yeah.
They are in a relegation battle, and Everton are fighting for their life right now, and they fought to the last minute against Spurs.
Yeah.
And I think they will fight to the last minute against us.
Yep.
I'm more nervous about that fixture than I am the Brentford fixture.
So the only reason why I'm actually really, really comfortable about the next 2 weeks of football matches is because I'm expecting Angry Hug. I really am expecting Angry Hug, and it's in the comfort of Old Trafford and OT. You know, we've been absolutely fantastic, you know, in OT this season, even against the best teams in the league. So I do believe there will be a resurgent performance against Brentford, and then maybe a little bit of a fatigued one. I think you're right though. There might be a bit of a fight against Everton. Everton, when we played them, I think it was an Iwobi Worldy, you know, first 5-10 minutes, and when we was playing them away from home, to open the score, I think it was poor passing out from the back from De Gea again, as per normal. But Iwobi finishes up with the opportunity, and so they have good, effective players in their side. But we, again, like you said, Doucouré missing, we should be able to win that game. So
what's your predictions?
I'm confident
for both games.
I'm confident for both games, Mina, and I believe that they're both wins. They're not going to be emphatic wins, but against Brentford maybe a 3-1, 2-1, and against Everton maybe a 3-1, 2-1 as well. So tight games, but it's at Old Trafford, you know, and we're going to win it.
I'm going 2-1 Brentford. I think we'll win, and if we win, it's going to be a
tightly contested,
tight game.
What do you think about Tony? Sorry to cut you.
Ivan Toney, I think he's one of the best strikers in the league.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the best. I would have him at United in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Yeah, I would have him at United at a heartbeat. But obviously, with this whole case that he's got,
I know.
It's not realistic enough.
Yeah.
But I would have him. Like, he causes problems for every defense. Like every defense that he comes up against, he causes problems. So that's why I'm saying 2-1, because I think he might score.
Yeah.
I think he might score.
He's one of those kind of players.
And Everton, I'm going to say 2-0. I think it will be like a nitty-gritty game where they will be pushing us, and they'll be pressing, they'll be aggressive, they'll be on the front foot, but I think we'll be able to nick it 2-0. And the only reason why I said I'm nervous about it, I know it doesn't reflect in the scoreline that I'm predicting.
It kind of does, because Newcastle 2-0, they won 2-0, but we were kind of fighting a little bit and trying.
It's just when the team's fighting like relegation, like they will, I think they will want the 3 points more than whoever they're coming up against, because they need it. They're literally fighting for their life. So for that reason, I'm going to say 2-0, but it's going to be like a scrappy game. 12:30 kickoff as well. Also, like, we're coming off the back of a midweek game.
Yes.
They played on Monday, so they're gonna have rest time before we're coming from playing Wednesday to playing on Saturday morning.
Injuries, thin squad, all this kind of thing. And a really interesting point I just thought now on what you were saying, on what you and Owen had spoken about in terms of, you know, it finally being, or I'm going to come to you as well, by the way, man. I want to know what you think in terms of, what do you think we're going to, is it a title race?
It's not a title race.
It's not a title race. I agree with you on that. But do you think we'll secure top 4 now? Because, you know, there's still 6 teams in and around it. Spurs are still around.
And there's so much to play for, I think, in the season.
Exactly. Everton have done us a favour. They beat Spurs, or they made Spurs drop. Yeah, they dropped 2 points. I think it was Keane, different kind of finish. Worldy. But they've done us a bit of favour there. But we're still in and around it. You know, Newcastle still got the same points as us. Spurs are still there, and there's 11 games to go.
And we've got some in those 11 games. We've still got,
I think, Chelsea and Spurs.
We've got Chelsea, we've got Spurs, we've got Villa. Obviously, we've got Everton. I know we've got Fulham at the end of the season. We've still got quite a few interesting teams to play against. But I do think top 4 is absolutely possible, and I would be really disappointed if we didn't get top 4 simply because we're in a comfortable position. In third place. We were quite comfortable. And then obviously you've got teams around us, Spurs, Liverpool, that have nothing else to fight for in the season but top 4. We're still in the FA Cup and we're still in Europa League. So we've got 2 stuff to focus on plus top 4. Whereas everyone else can just put their all into that. We're going to be playing more midweek games because of Europa League, because of FA Cup. So, but I wouldn't have it any other way. When you want your team to be
fighting on all fronts, winning everything, competing in everything. My question to you would be, though, quickly, is it more important for us to get in the top 4 or to win the Europa or to pick up trophies? 3 trophies this season, or the getting into Champions League football for next season?
The thing is, if we win Europa League,
you're in. Yeah.
We're in top 4.
Yeah, you're in the Champions League.
And you look at that's what, it's 3 games, albeit it's 6 because you play. Actually, no, it's 5 games in total because you play two leg, and then final. Yes. That's all that's left in the Europa League.
Yeah.
So that's 5 games in comparison to 11 games of Premier League that we still have to play. Yeah. Coming up against
semi-final, then final.
We're playing in Sevilla in the final, in the quarters, sorry. And then it's Juve or Sporting in the semi, and then final can be anyone. It could be Union Berlin, it could be Roma, it could be anyone. I would fancy my chances in Europa League. Yeah. Because it's 5 games. It's less games. Sporting
or Juventus are...
But then...
People are worried about them.
I'd be more scared of Sporting than Juve. I would genuinely be more... because I'm not... Juve, their manager, I don't rate him.
Pogba, Vlahovic. Ballers, man. They got Di Maria.
I'm glad that we're talking about that, because that would be a perfect segue to what we're going to end the show with.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to get involved in the chat, in the comments. Just get involved in this part. We're going to rank the top 10 signings of the last 10 years. So the last 10 years is from the 2012-2013 season to the 22-2023 season.
Perfect.
So a player like David De Gea misses the cut because he came just before that season.
He wasn't going to be in this top 10 anyway, man. He really wasn't. He wasn't going to be in the top 100.
That's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh. And the reason why I said it's the perfect segue is because we talk about Di Maria, we talk about Pogba, and there's quite a lot of players that we signed in the 10-year period. And when I was looking at it, when I was making my list, I was just looking at the fees, and it's amazing how many people we signed for like a large fee, and then the next window or the window after that, they were out. Yeah. I'm fascinated by how poorly run the club was. But I'm going to start it off, and I'm going to go with my number 10.
Oh, we're going 10 first.
We'll go from 10 to 1.
Okay, let me double check then, because I had 1 in my head already.
No. We'll go 10 to 1. And I'm going to start with someone who I feel like him and the manager just did not understand each other. There was no understand. It's that Dutch fire and that South American fire. They didn't understand each other. Big price tag. I was so gassed. I was excited when he came. And I'm going to tell you why I'm excited. I was excited because I remember this window very well. We had the Aeon Nike kit that season, and I wanted to get the kit. But I was waiting for the transfer window because we were linked to Vidal that season. Arturo Vidal. We were linked to him for the entire summer, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get a number 7. I'm gonna get Vidal on the back. I was ready to order it. Bam! Found out we weren't getting him, and instead we signed this guy. And then I remember I said to one of my siblings who's also a United fan, we were buying our shirts that season. I said, I'm not getting it with his name on the back because I said I don't think he's gonna be.
Leave it alone.
And for that reason, my number 10 is Di Maria.
Di Maria.
Di Maria is my number 10.
Wow. And we spoke about this off air, you know, man, and I put him higher up on my list.
Really?
I can't.
The reason why, because the way that I rank people is based on the fee, what they've achieved, and just how connected they were to the fan base. This guy is the same guy that PSG game. He was doing that celebration to the crowd and they were dashing bottles at him. He didn't like the team. He hates United. I think he's got a personal dislike. So for that reason, I put him number 10.
Fair enough.
Who's your number 10?
Number 10 for me happens to be a player that just signed a long-term contract for the club.
Okay.
You know, has been a good servant for the club, had a massive leg break throughout his career with us. And has come leaps and bounds from where he was at the beginning stages. I think he had a poor era. You know, some managers saying he can't use his brain. It's him that's controlling the player. He just has the feet. So my number 10 is Luke Shaw.
Okay.
I think he's been a fantastic signing over the course of, you know, through time. He's continuously looked better. And Ten Hag, I think, even though we were speaking, funny enough, about Ten Hag not really saying what he means or protecting his players publicly, I think genuinely Ten Hag has got a good and has made a good player out of Luke Shaw, even in the centre-back position, you know, can cover there and look fantastic. So I think whether someone does surpass him soon or whatever, you know, could still happen. But Luke Shaw over the last 10 years or so, for me, it would be my number 10.
I hear it. I got him a bit
higher up.
Oh,
yeah. Fair enough.
But not that much.
I guess it's subjective. It's like it's just on what you feel for and what you think. So go on, number 9, or should I go number 9?
Yeah, you go with your number 9.
So
I think people are gonna laugh at my number 9.
Okay, so funny enough, we just talked about Di Maria. So I'll just do quick. So number 9 is Di Maria for me. Go on.
My number 9 is Marouane Fellaini. Fellaini is my number 9, and I'll give you my reason. Is because he was a scapegoat at his time at United. He played in so many different positions. He played centre mid, up front, wing, everywhere. I'm surprised he didn't play centre back. But one thing I liked about him is that he gave everything all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's similar to Herrera, where Herrera was a fan favourite. People liked him. I wasn't too sold on him.
I liked him.
I liked him, but I wasn't sold on the way that he claimed that he loved the club or whatever. I wasn't sold on that. But Fellaini for me is that he was part of that one signing, I think, that Moyes brought.
Yeah, he was him and Mata.
It was him and Mata.
And
he was just like, I felt bad for him because he was always like a scapegoat. He wasn't the most talented guy, but he'd always give 100. It's like, you know, Weghorst, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's not the most talented, but someone who gives 100. And I feel like at that time, in that transitional period from Moyes to Van Gaal, when we still had that guy kept his spot. Even though Van Gaal was bringing in more players, he always was called upon. I remember there was a goal he scored last minute to win us a game.
I was about to say, headers last minute.
And to me, that's the kind of things I remember when I think about Fellaini, and obviously his hair, obviously. And for that reason, I put him at number 9.
No, I mean, a fantastic player when utilised in the right kind of system and style of play. And like you're saying, when we needed goals last few minutes, we would change the whole game plan. It was go long, get players like Fellaini, get the ball in around him. So, I mean, effective when he was on song. That was your number 9?
That's not my number 9. I'm going to go number 8.
Yeah, yes, please.
And that's Luke Shaw.
Okay, respect on his name.
I put him at 8. I think he's actually the only fullback I got in my list. And I put him there because obviously he's a long-term servant of the club. Probably going to be, I think De Gea is the most longest serving player at the moment, but I think he's going to overtake him because he's signed a 4-year contract, so he's going to be here for a bit longer.
Yeah.
And I think to come back from that leg-breaking injury, he was one of the best under 21 prospects in England at the time.
At the time, yeah.
To come back from that and, you know, all the criticisms and everything, then to, you know, he's won quite a few trophies. Like, people forget he was here throughout pretty much every trophy that we won in that time under Van Gaal and under Mourinho and now under Ten Hag. And for that reason, I put him at number 8 because I think that out of all the signings that we've always brought in and out, he's the one guy that's held his spot.
Yeah.
Like, we've brought in Tellez, Malacia, and he's still managed to hold his spot. Some players on the list, or some players in the club in general, have had competition come in and lost their spot.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I put Luke Shaw at number 8. He could be higher. He could be higher, I think. People might put him higher, but I put him there because I think the list is kind of stacked.
Yeah, exactly. Firstly, when you sent me in the list of signings that we had made over the last 10 years, it just was massive.
Ridiculous.
It was massive. Anyways, there's not much quality in there, but it's massive list. And to see that all these players are not even here over the course of 10 years, we wasn't thinking long term or 5 to 6 year stints. It was just anyhow. So like you said, it's really interesting. The Ed Woodwardness, the poor, consistent lack of quality of signing and overpriced as well. Some of these players.
Yeah, no, ridiculous prices.
Yeah,
ridiculous prices.
So Juan Mata is my next one. I think this is 8. It's 8 for me. It's 8 for me. Juan Mata is a fantastic player that was underutilized. I think playing him out wide at times was just ridiculous. And he's one of those players for me, alongside Paul Pogba, that if Ten Hag had got a hold of these players, they would just have gone to another level. And for me, just so comfortable on the ball. I think he could have even played 6. One of those.
But do you think he didn't have enough aspiration at the club? Because if you he came from his best season at Chelsea, and then was underutilized. Shouldn't he have left after a few years and gone elsewhere instead of riding out 8 years, 9 years at the club?
A buddy. He
was a big part of the dressing room, apparently.
Yeah, buddy with De Gea, buddy with Herrera, and astronomical. And it's been a foundation of the club over the last 10 years, unfortunately, of astronomical wages and very, very low trophies, and that kind of feeds into the ecology and understanding of even the players. They must have just think, I'm getting the big check and let me just go from there.
He's not in my list. There's quite a few players. When I was looking at the players in the last 10 years, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Schneiderlin? Completely forgot about him. Schweinsteiger? Oh man, what a funny transfer window that was. Not one player, can I just say, not one player from the 2020-21 summer transfer has made it into my list. And that's a bit harsh because there's one player from that window that I think was the best of that window. Obviously, that's the year that we brought Ahmad, Van der Beek, Pellistri and Cavani.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you guys later why Cavani didn't make it into my list. But who's on your number 7?
Number 7 is a number 7 for Manchester United, and was a number 7 for Manchester United. Was a Manchester United number 7. Fantastic footballer, and came off the back of a good season as well. I think at a rival club as well.
I'm trying to figure out who it is.
Yeah, we can keep going.
It could be Sanchez.
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 Yeah.
He's in your list.
Yeah. He's a bags man. He's a bags.
But this is based on what they've done at United, not their career.
Well,
what did Sanchez do to be in the list?
Well, I was basing it over just what I liked as a player.
Okay, cool, fair enough. That's understandable.
And I think the style of game that he brought to that Mourinho team, alongside Lukaku at times, was just so good. I think he was a very, very. He didn't reach the heights that he should have at obviously Manchester United, but I think that signing that when you bring an Alexis Sanchez, on form Alexis Sanchez, I think it was a brilliant signing for the club at the time.
No, I can't.
And he could have done a little bit better, but I put him in there as number 7.
He could have done a lot better.
Yeah.
He could have done a lot better than what
the Mourinho football skill is stifling. I mean, going from the kind of, again, another player, and that's another player, by the way, that I would put in that list there. If under a Ten Hag, you get a completely different footballer.
Too many ifs.
Yes, I know.
There's too many ifs.
It's a list. This is my list, isn't it?
I hear it. My number 7. He's not a number 7.
Yeah, go on.
It's Tony Marshall.
Okay.
Tony Marshall is my number 7. I will never forget the joy. I don't think I've ever felt so much joy when he came on and scored in his debut.
Yeah. Against Liverpool.
Yeah, against Liverpool. I don't think I will. That's a feeling I will never forget in my life. And I feel like, again, I could be like, oh, if this and if that, but I feel like the amount of time he's served at the club, obviously for 50 million as well, in the grand scheme of things, I think we got our value out of him.
Oh, 100%.
I feel like with 50 million, I feel like we've got our value out of him.
And we
Obviously,
continue to. We still
the last
continue
2 years, he hasn't been the best. This year is just frustrating with injuries, but I feel like in the past, because of you know what he's been through in prior seasons, to understand why he's injured
the situation
in the situation that he is right now. But I put him at number 7 because I feel like 50 million, what he's done, you know, the player that he is, for the 7-ish years that we've had him, I think we've got 4 or 5 years out of him. And I think, you know, did we break even? Yeah, 10 million a year.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, for a player of his quality, I think we need to keep him on for next season and continue to get the benefit of what he has been bringing.
That's the conversation for another time. Honestly, that's the conversation for another time. We could make a whole video on that. But my next one is, I think it's number 6. If I'm
for
some reason I can't seem to find. Oh, my number 6 is he's a bagsman, Ibrahimovic.
Yeah,
he's a bagsman.
Yeah,
free transfer. Scored goals, could have scored way more goals, won a few trophies, still playing football till today at the age of 41. Fun fact, if Arsenal win the league, Mikel Arteta will be younger than Ibrahimovic on that day, and Ibrahimovic is still playing football. So he's my number 6. Who's your number 6?
Number 6 for me is, and I don't know if this is a controversial one, but it's Paul Pogba.
Ooh.
I didn't go. I know there's a lot of politics around the players' playing career, but when I look at the list of the players, and I look at how long he's been at Manchester United and what he's offered to the club, how he helped, you know, spur on some of our best seasons, you know, under certain managers, I think, you know, Pogba, especially when Pogba was around, was a fantastic player, you know, a ridiculously good baller. And like I said before, you know, under Ten Hag would just go to never levels. But number 6 for me.
Who's your number 5?
Number 5, we're starting to go to more current players now for me.
Yeah.
Which I know you might be annoyed, some people might be annoyed about. I would have missed plenty of talented players. I'm sorry about that. But number 5 for me now is Casemiro.
Okay.
Again, just, you know, I think he's going to go on to, and I think, you know, the importance of him in this side, you know, I think there's a picture there of Ronaldo and Keane, you know, and you need those kind of players in your team, and I think they transcend the whole last 10 years of Ed Woodward's kind of business, even though I think it was the Ed Woodward regime that does make, this is one of his last windows.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Casemiro is a fantastic footballer, and he's number 5 on my list.
My 5 is Pogba.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and I feel like I could have even put him a bit higher. If I'm being real, I feel like I could have. We could talk about all the ifs about his career at Manchester United, especially like the last year and a bit of his time at Manchester United. But I feel like we got the best out of him when he was played in his best position, and that just was not utilised enough.
At all.
He was very key in quite a lot of big games. People always say, "Oh, name 5 games of Pogba's influence." I can name them easily. And I feel like, again, the trophies that he won, to be part of the to be an important part of the Manchester United team that won trophies in the last 10 years, that's a big part because we were horrible. So if you were a key ingredient of that, you know, Europa League win, if you're a key ingredient of that, what's it called, that we won under Mourinho, the other cup, the Carabao Cup.
Carabao Cup, yeah.
If you're a key ingredient of that, I respect it. And I feel like, again, you know, if he was under Ten Hag and he was fit, he's like Martial. He's another guy like Martial, where injuries ruined his last year or 2 at the club. But when he was fit and he was proper, I remember that 18-19 season, he was on fire. He was playing in the left of the 3 midfielders, and what annoyed me is when they used to play him deep, Mourinho or Oli, whatever. They used to play him deep, and then when Oli came in and he used to play him on the left, basically as a 10, inside 10, basically. That's when you got the best out of him, and that's where he always said was his best position. So for that reason, I put him number 5. My number 4 is a current player, a recent signing, Sandro Martinez. That's my number 4. Yeah,
go on. You can take this one away. I mean, you
4.
called it out from early. Player of the season.
The reason why is because, and I'm going to come to it when I tell you where I put Casemiro, is because for so long we've needed that position addressed, and to come in and in 6 months solidify that spot. You're a great signing. You're a great signing, and you're only gonna get better. So
The exact same reason why I've got him in, I think, my top three. My fourth position, I cheated. I'm not gonna lie, I've cheated because I had to change it. Thinking about the Di Maria, I haven't said Di Maria yet, so I would assume that I think he would be. Did I put him in there?
I think you put him a bit earlier.
Okay, because I changed him to 4. But anyway, Lukaku is on my 4. Romelu, and I really, it was a toss up between the two. That's why I had it there, but I put 4 off. Maybe I said it earlier, but for me, Romelu Lukaku, even now, I think would still be able to bag 25, 20 goals a season in the Prem. Even now, it's just that he had a wrong move. Why are you laughing?
Because he was at Chelsea and he couldn't even bag that many.
That's Chelsea. Minna, that's Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea Football Club.
How many goals has he bagged this season at Inter?
Chelsea Football Club, and all the other football clubs that you're talking about, Inter Milan, all this other nonsense. I don't really. I don't care about that. Manchester United. I think he was on a.
No, he was a great player. He was a good goal scorer.
I had Di Maria as number 9. Sorry guys, but he was fantastic. Romelu Lukaku was fantastic. Maybe at the technical level, he's not there, but again, something that
I feel like he's lost his touch right now.
So he's lost the love for the game. He's lost the love for the game.
Yeah, I feel like he's lost his touch. I remember the Inter Milan president was saying that they're not triggering the option to buy him because he's overweight. Yeah. That's literally exactly
lost the love for the game.
Said overweight. So for that reason, I wouldn't put him in my top 10. Obviously, I could say I don't think he's served long enough in the club for me to be like. When I think about Lukaku, I swear, that year the PSG when we beat PSG, he was a key part of it. The 2 goals, pressing from the front, that was so important for us to make that comeback. A big part. But there was other times in the season I can name where I was just so frustrated with him. And I feel like he had it unlucky because A, his price tag, and B, he was the first big striker that we brought long term. So he had big boots to fill. And I feel like that maybe was a part of the reason why I didn't put him in, because I don't feel like he even half filled those boots. And for that reason,
number 3, Lisandro Martinez. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Just the best player, that we're going to have for the next 5 years in terms of longevity, future captain potentially. You said it before, Mina, the best player this season, and I 100% agree with you. So that's my number 3. Should I skip through to number 2, make it quickly?
No, I'll tell you my number 3, but
my
number 3 is Casemiro.
Yeah.
Again, not much to say about that. Very important player.
Yeah.
It's a position that we needed to be filled for so long, and for that reason, he's my number 3.
My number 2 would obviously be Bruno Fernandes.
I think we got the same top 2.
Is it?
Yeah, I think we got the same top 2. I think we got my number 2. There's no explanation needed, really. Yeah. I think he's the best signing that we've had in a long time.
Yes.
I think my number 1, and I think it's the same as your number 1.
Yeah.
The only reason why he makes that number 1 spot is because of what he did in that season that we brought him.
And just legendary, and Fergie knew what was required. He knew what was required to change the power shift, to keep hold of the power within the right side of Manchester, and brings in the bags, man.
My number 1, our number 1, the one and only Robin van Persie, Manchester United legend. Honestly, I don't think we'll ever find that. That's why I get annoyed when people compare signing Kane to RVP, because I don't think we will ever have another man like RVP.
Mina, I have never heard that before, but thank you for bringing that to
my
attention.
I don't feel like they are the same level of players.
No, that can happen. Huh? That can happen. No. You just said something that could really actually happen.
What?
Harry Kane coming in and having the RVP effect. I didn't actually think of that.
No, because when people talk about Harry Kane. When people talk about Harry Kane and him coming into United, they talk a lot about his ability now to drop deep, create. Yeah. We don't need that. We need someone to score. RVP came in to score. That guy, I remember watching a podcast, Rio Ferdinand's podcast with Evra, and they were talking about when RVP came in, and they were talking about the dressing room and what Sir Alex Ferguson was saying to people. And they would just say, Sir Alex Ferguson said to everyone, just find him. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you find him, where you find him, just find him. Yeah. Get the ball to him and he will score. And that's what he did.
If you don't, you're not playing.
Yeah, basically. That's what he said. Yeah. And time again, they found him, he scored. To come and wear number 20 because you're saying, I'm going to bring the 20th. You know how confident that is, and he did it. Yeah. And for that reason, he's my number 1. I respect him. I know I have friends who are Arsenal fans that hate him. I think he's an Arsenal legend as much as a Manchester United legend.
Thanks.
But he just never won the Premier League with them. But guys, in the comments below, please let us know whose top 10 do you agree with?
Yeah.
Whose don't you agree with? Do you feel like we put some people a bit too high, put some people a bit too low? Let us know who your top 10 is in the comments section below. Make sure it's between 2012 to 2013 season to this season signings. And yeah, this is the Red Room. You can listen to us on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you might listen, where you listen on. You can find link in the bio below. Every Wednesday you can find us here on United View, the Red Room vibes. Hopefully we can come back next week off the back of 2 victories.
Oh, yes.
And let us know if you enjoy us doing ranking players, because then we can come up with different concepts of players that we can rank. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, and you can become a member. And until next week, peace.